Spanish exploration, colonization, and the mission system. The Spanish were exploring the Americas, both South America and North America, and they decided to establish a system of missions, the reason for this was basically twofold. They wanted to spread Christianity to the native peoples, and they also wanted to sort of exploit the native people as sort of free labor for agriculture, which they hoped would produce economic returns for Spain. So they established this system of missions in which they recruited Native Americans as essentially, in many cases, slave labor. The missions didn't really satisfy either one of these goals very effectively. Most of the Native American people did not want to convert to Christianity, and it wasn't really producing very well economically either. So there was growing criticism of the mission system over time. And once the Spanish won their independence, once the Mexicans won their independence from Spain, Mexico basically decided to abolish that mission system. So they got rid of the mission system and instead transferred the mission land holdings into the hands of private landowners, people who had supported the government or were influential for one reason or another. And they called these people the ranchero class, and they started these private ranches, rancheros. And so they were doing farming, they were raising cattle, they were doing all sorts of things on this land that used to belong to the missions. Some other settlements that existed in the region during this time, pueblos is a good term to know. It basically is just a little town. A presidio is a fort, sort of a fort/jail. So it was a way to maintain social order in a region and sort of protect trade routes or otherwise exert authority in that region. And the rancheros that we already mentioned was that land that used to belong to the mission system that was now in private hands. War between Mexico and the United States, the Mexican-American War. In 1846, the U.S. declared war on Mexico, and the reason for this conflict between the U.S. and Mexico was primarily over border disputes, in particularly a region along the Rio Grande, where the United States had sort of occupied this disputed territory, and that led to conflict between the two nations. So they had a war, the Mexican-American War, and the United States defeated Mexico. The United States was much stronger militarily, and so it defeated Mexico pretty easily. After the victory, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, and this treaty gave control of the California territory to the United States. Essentially, this territory was California, Oregon, Arizona, part of New Mexico, Nevada, part of Utah, part of Colorado. All of that territory they called the California territory, a huge region. And the United States had tried to purchase this region prior to the Mexican-American War for $35 million, and Mexico had turned that offer down. After the Mexican-American War, the United States essentially forced Mexico to sell that entire region for $15 million. So that essentially completed the United States expansion to the Pacific coast, this idea of manifest destiny that they had to control the region all the way from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And that's how the region that would become the state of California initially became a territory under the control of the United States. Discovery of gold and the effects, the gold rush. Between 1847 and 1860, California's population grew from 15,000 people to 380,000 people, and this led to California's acceptance into statehood. The main reason for this population boom at this particular time was the gold rush, and at Sutter's Mill, California, they had discovered gold, and then they started discovering it other places after that, and people started coming from all over the country, and not only all over the country, but all over the world to try to strike it rich as gold miners here in California. This illustration shows a steamship bill advertising passage from Nicaragua to California to come try to start an endeavor as a gold miner and try to make your fortune here in California. Slavery was forbidden in California. It came into the Union as a free state. Not necessarily a major reason that anybody moved to California, but very important on the national stage because there was such a large population here in California that it really shifted the balance of power in Congress more towards the abolitionists when California came in as a free state. And that helped to accelerate the country towards the Civil War. So that was one effect of California coming into the Union as a free state.